Welcome back, everyone, to WCU Entertainment Review. As always, I'm Jimmy, and with me is Dylan. He's like the second album from Vanilla Ice. He just doesn't matter.
That's it.
You know, they can't all be winners.
Like this show.
Well, that's just rude.
I have to know what we're doing.
Well, guys, when we come back, we'll be talking about the biggest things in video games. Welcome back, guys. Today we are going to talk about Call of Duty. Now, Dylan, here's the thing. I read online recently that Call of Duty is actually projected to lose money this time. And, you know, it's no secret that Call of Duty has been like the big shooting game that's been on the market for years now. It's kind of been like one of the top selling video games in the world, if not the top. And, you know, I really have to wonder, is it because it's a trend in video games and slumping, or is it just Call of Duty is finally falling off at the top of the mantle?
Well, I mean, the original Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which isn't the original, but it showed the greatest innovation going from the World War II to the modern war, so to speak. That was a big transition piece. We were all sick of World War II. But nowadays, it's still the same thing. You're either shooting Russians or some random Middle Eastern country.
And it's not even that, but if you play the campaign modes now, and it's like some of them are like less than a couple hours. You're done in like 6 hours, and which if you're going to like a video game rental place, which don't really exist now, but if they did, that'd be fine. But if you're paying $60 for a game and you're done the campaign in 6 hours, I mean, I'd be a little ticked off about that. And the funny thing is, if you go online, that's the big selling point. You can go online with it. Yeah, but not every gamer wants to be online.
That's the only reason Call of Duty exists, is for multiplayer capabilities. And honestly, this newest one has changed the most out of the Call of Duty formula, but that's not saying much. It has changed, but it's still, you can tell, oh, this is Call of Duty with jetpacks. That's about it. It's not, oh, this is everything else, and it's still Call of Duty.
And a lot of it, I really think, it kind of reminds me of, like, Madden.
Yeah.
It's a game that has been in its own little box for so long, and you kind of realize now that, like, it's just repainting the same stuff, not changing much. It doesn't want to rock the boat, because if you rock the boat, maybe the sales are going to go down. Well, you might want to start rocking the boat because sales are going down. And, especially with online, like, everyone's like, well, the online gaming is so great for it, but I don't really like playing online because I don't really need to be told by a 10-year-old that I suck.
But you do. You're a noob.
Well,
10-year-olds don't lie, Jimmy. 10-year-olds don't lie.
I don't want them to lie to me. It's just not fair. No, I don't like being, I think that, like, especially with online gaming, it can be very negative.
Oh,
it just gets really
old.
Yeah, I mean, it really does get old. And, we've talked about, like, stuff, you have stuff like Gamergate and stuff like that. That stuff goes right into what goes online. You hear the talk from these guys and just children, and it's just like, seriously, take it down a notch. And I think if Call of Duty really wants to come back up, really, they should kind of tone down what they do, you hear online. And they should also revamp the campaign mode, try to change it up. I mean, supposedly they're doing that, because I did read with IGN, it got a pretty good review for the PS4 and Xbox One consoles with the 9.1 review out of 10.
That's IGN though, and they have reviewed everything well except for games that they don't like. Who haven't paid them off enough.
I'm a big fan of IGN, so IGN, if you're hiring. Alright, we will be right back with you guys talking about television. Welcome back, guys, and what we're going to talk about today is the big tragedy of television, the first cancellations of the season. And what I think I'm going to do first is correct something that I didn't do in the last show and actually introduce Erica. Why I didn't introduce her, I don't really know. People in the behind the camera are supposed to correct me on these things, and they didn't do it. Now, should I really be blaming them? No, it's really my fault, but I'll just blame them anyway. So, Erica, these shows such as Bad Judge, A to Z, Utopia, I know I'm forgetting others, but there's been like 5 shows that are really about to be canceled or have been canceled. Mulaney's the other one on Fox, and that went from a 16-episode order to 13, which is basically like saying you're canceled. So, what do you think about these type of cancellations?
Well, first let me just say, I'm very happy that you introduced me this episode.
But
the first one I think we should talk about is Utopia. It's a reality series. I think they kind of made it to cancel it.
Yeah.
There was a quote from E! News that said, for every How to Get Away with Murder, which is one of the best shows of the season, there has to be Utopia. And I could not agree more.
It was so bad. Like, basically, the show was supposed to be like this social experiment, right?
Yeah.
It was like Survivor. you're supposed to be like a survivor, and they were supposed to be like build their own island and build their own civilization. But they do what every reality show has done in the last 10 years. It's just these stereotyped people who they go through with a fine-tooth comb and fine and put them together, and then chaos happens. Well, you watch these shows and that stuff's just not fun, and I think a lot of these reality shows are just becoming unwatchable. But that's just my opinion.
They were watchable in the first place?
I don't know. There were some those original reality shows were fun because they weren't.
Well, they were new. That's why they. That's why
I
they were
think it's
fun.
overdone. I think the whole idea of getting a random group of people together to, as with this one, they were trying to build their own civilization and society. I think it's overdone. I think no one really wants to watch it anymore. They'd rather watch a quirky family than watch strangers try to interact.
Speaking about quirky families, you heard that they canceled Honey Boo Boo, or at least this is the last season of it.
Yes.
No, they canceled it off the thing because that was a little different. I mean,
but with shows like that, people would rather watch like a family and get to know them than watch random strangers try to interact, and there's just a bunch of drama that doesn't need to be shown.
Exactly. I mean, and a lot of it's just you go to watch and you're just kind of like, what are you trying? Like, I think Utopia was one of those ideas that sounded good on paper, and then they did it, and it was like, oh, we kind of made a mistake here.
A big one.
But let's move on to other shows here because we have Bad Judge. This show was supposed to be a big hit show. Like, I remember them talking about how it was going to be a big hit. And the thing I find funny is you go to see where they placed it. They placed it on Thursday night, and this season compared to other seasons, you have the football game on every Thursday night, which is on CBS. Why would you put a new show like that on?
I mean, Thursday nights are a very big hit for ABC. You have Grey's Anatomy, you have their new show How to Get Away with Murder, and Scandal. You have people who watch all three of those shows at once. To put a new comedy out on that night, I just think it would never have worked.
They probably made somebody unhappy, and they're like, okay, we'll give you your show, but it's Thursday. Why?
Actually, I think what they did was they used to have the NBC. You remember must-see television? That used to be a thing. That
I remember that. Yeah.
I'm probably dating myself here, but yeah, they used to have like Friends and Frasier,
Yes.
all these big sitcoms on Thursday nights. So I think they kind of still are in that mindset of, well, we can put the comedy show there.
Yes, back. But I mean, if it was on a different day, it might have done really well. I mean, you had Will Ferrell as part of the producing team, and Kate Walsh, who starred in the show, was also part of that team. So I feel as though it would have done a lot better on a different day.
I probably agree with that. And also, AZ is another show that was on the same night. I mean, these comedy shows were up against football, which,
that's never going to happen anytime.
I know not everyone loves football, but football now is a big brand. And that they basically were asking for these shows to be canceled. And, and you can't say that's for all these shows, because Mulaney, that's on a Sunday night. Actually, there's Sunday night football.
Nights, well, Sunday nights are a very big TV night as well. A
And
lot of established shows have their...
And they do have Sunday night football, but I think they were kind of hoping that would be like, they have the Simpsons and the Family Guy.
Yeah.
And they could kind of springboard it, but, I think there is a problem with sitcoms now are just not good enough anymore. People are just not interested in the old way they used to do sitcoms, because, for every, for all these shows...
Scrubs and stuff. They have things like Scrubs, which
they were big hits,
seasons.
and they used to be big shows, and then they got canceled, and now you see, like, for every Modern Family, you have a show that, like, comes out and 2 episodes in, they're canceled.
Well, I was going to say Modern Family definitely is a good one to base it off of because it has that 30-minute sitcom feel to it. But now, anytime another show comes out, they are always compared to Modern Family.
Very true, but guys, we're going to move on when we come back with movies. Welcome back, everybody, and today we're going to go into the movies with this big war brewing between Marvel and DC Comics. Now, we talked in the first episode about how the television war is starting between these two companies. DC has finally jumped into the war with movies, and we say war, it's going to become that because both companies in the span of 2 weeks launched these big, long 5-year titles of movies that are just about to come out. And the funny thing is, when we were conceiving this show, I was actually going to talk about Captain America and the new Batman vs. Superman movies, because originally these movies were on the same exact weekend. And then it was kind of like the staring contest to see who would blink first. DC blinked and moved theirs back. Now, originally I would have sat there and said Batman vs Superman would have dominated, but because Captain America 2 was so good,
Yeah, Winter Soldier was such a good movie.
it was like Winter Soldier was so good, you have to move back. And you know, the movies here, I'm going to run down a few of the titles. You know, you have the next Captain America movie coming out, Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, a new Thor's coming out, the Black Panthers, a bunch of the Avenger movies, and Captain Marvel and Inhumans. Now, DC, on the other hand, I think is actually kind of in a better spot because, as anybody knows, Marvel does not own the movie rights to all their bigger names.
Yeah, they're missing Spider-Man, X-Men, Fantastic Four. Those are 3 big properties that would give Marvel such a wide range of movies that would cover different topics that they don't have access to. So it limits them to certain superheroes.
Exactly, and with, you know, DC, they can go right in with their heavy hitters. They're going up there with Wonder Woman and Batman vs Superman, The Flash, Justice League, Aquaman,
Even Aquaman, yeah.
Shazam, or Captain Marvel, as a lot of people know him, Cyborg, and Green Lantern. And, you know, it kind of brings to the question I'm going to ask you, Dylan. You know, does this advantage kind of give DC an edge?
Well, for Marvel, I mean, everybody knows the Marvel actors and the heroes they play. Everybody loves them, but they cost so much money that it's going to get to the point where, oh, you want me to be in the next movie? That'll be $100 million. Oh, you can't afford that? I'm out. Well, DC,
That's exaggerating, but
you get what I mean.
yeah, they're going, and they're getting older.
Yeah, they're getting older. And DC has brand new people. It has no expectations of Earthquake, just that it can be better than the previous movies. They can build from here. Marvel has to work so hard to get to the same level.
To keep up. And the thing is, to be fair, Batman and Superman, you know, Superman does have Henry Cavill. He did Man of Steel. That's the only movie in this timeline that they've done so far. It's kind of hit or miss with a lot of fans. I liked it, but the one thing I do actually want to talk to Eric about, we're seeing both Wonder Woman and Marvel's version of Captain Marvel, and they're both female action superheroes, and movies do not have a good reputation of creating the superhero female. You know, anybody who goes back and watches these shows, you know, these movies, excuse me.
Elektra.
Yeah, Elektra, Catwoman, the original Supergirl, and they create these movies where, like, basically you can tell they're men creating movies what they think girls think, and they're just god awful. And I was just wondering, like, as a female, because me and Dylan can't give this perspective, do you think it's important for them to kind of have a female director?
I don't know so much about having a female director, but I do know that just in this day and age, it's either going to be hit or miss. I'm going to either love the movie or I'm going to hate how you had that actress portray the character. It's not going to be, well,
It was okay.
no, it was okay,
Yeah.
just because, I mean, feminism is everywhere. So to have these two characters have their own movie, you have to make it, you know, as best as you can. You can't really go half on it.
Especially with Wonder Woman, because
Yes.
let's be honest, it's Wonder Woman.
She is the quintessential female hero.
Yes, and if that it's either going to do really well or it's not going to do well at all.
And I really think if they really want to, I personally, I think they actually do. They do need a female director, or at least somebody who's up and who's
actually a girl.
who's actually
Yes.
running
Yeah.
higher up, who's helping write the scripts, putting the movie together. Because if you go out there and you have a guy doing it, again, we end up with another just like Catwoman
Or
or
that horrible stitched together suit. No, it was just so bad.
Well, that, or like even if you go back to the 80s with Supergirl and they had her like fighting, I don't even remember the whole plot, but it's like this weird magical witch thing. It was just a really weird movie, and she was like, you know, they make Superman this like fighter guy, and they make Supergirl this like, oh, a flower.
I honestly didn't even know that was a movie.
Well, if she's having Wonder Woman has her own title,
Yes.
Yeah.
so you can go in so many directions with that, and I mean, female or male director, they're going to have a lot of challenges ahead of them.
Very true, but we will be right back to close out the show. Welcome back, everybody, and you know, still we're at the end of the show. It's been a long show. We've talked about some good stuff. We talked about cancellations. We talked about Call of Duty declining, and we talked about DC versus Marvel.
You know, honestly, for that entire subject, I would want to have front row tickets to a grudge match between those two. Not the heroes, but the people who own those two companies. See these groups of old men just going, duking it out. I'd pay top dollar for that. How about you, Jimmy?
Wow, that was lame. Anyway, we're going to be back next week, and we will see you then.
I'm going to.
Good.